Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Nourish and Strengthen podcast. I'm so excited about our guest today. Today we have a very special person. We have one of our incredible Moxie coaches, Janea Zavala here. Hi, Janea.
Hello, Lindsay. How are
How?
you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for thinking of me and having
Oh,
me on your podcast.
of course. I'm so excited to have you. So excited. So let's first well, first of all, I want to introduce Janea. How long have you been working with our team? I can't remember.
I started during COVID.
Okay.
So
So
it's been, since 2020, I don't know, it was probably
3 years.
yeah, April or May,
Oh
April
my
2020,
gosh.
I think. I know it's been a long time now.
Time flies. That is so crazy. So we met, kind of a funny story. What year was it? 2018.
19, I think it was maybe 18.
It
Yeah,
was
18,
I
I
didn't
think.
yeah, I didn't compete in 19. So it would have been
Okay.
18. And
Yeah.
so did we meet when we were both getting our makeup done from what's her
Yes.
face? Is it Chanel?
Yes. Chanel.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
And you were just in there and I don't know, we just started talking so we were getting our makeup done at the same time and we became fast friends. And Janea is one of the kindest, most loving people I've ever met in my entire life. So
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way about you,
Oh,
for sure.
thank you. Well, let's go ahead and just jump in. You have quite a story that we're going to have you share today. And we're just going to kind of go in. We're going to talk through, your background and how you got into competing, what that's taught you about even just lifestyle, health and fitness and discipline and habits. And then kind of go into how you coach your clients because it's kind of a unique way of coaching clients. So I'm excited for everybody to hear. So let's first go kind of way back. Talk to me about how, kind of where you came from. That's a big part of your story.
Yes. Okay. So I live in Arizona. I grew up here. I'm an only child. So my mom and dad were divorced when I was, I don't know, like 1.5 or 2, but I've always had a great relationship with my dad, kind of saw him every other weekend. Came from a single mom. My mom was single. She's been married quite a bit throughout throughout my life. But a very loving mom. She, worked 3 jobs. I saw how hard she worked. She struggled with money. She struggled with self-confidence, self-esteem, and she was an alcoholic. So, that was a pretty, sometimes, pretty rough during my childhood. But, I'm sure it definitely taught me a lot about myself and a lot about, alcoholism and how
Mhm.
it can affect it can affect people. I mean, I always felt very loved by my mom, and she, lives really close to me right now. She's an incredible grandmother.
Mhm.
But again, I think some of the trials I went through my younger days, even into, my being an adult, have helped me to be a better coach,
Yeah.
and to have, yeah, and to have more empathy with some of my clients who maybe struggle with alcohol or have family members that struggle with alcohol. um, yeah, so that's where I grew up here. Again, I was a cheerleader. I was a dancer. Dabbled in some beauty pageants, which were pretty fun. That was
Oh,
fun.
that's so fun.
Yes, I love it. I love crowns. I love crowns. I have some of
I
the
was going to
crowns that I
say,
got.
yeah, if you're
I just
watching on
love a
YouTube, you
crown.
can see some crowns behind her.
Oh, I just love crowns.
That's so
Yeah.
fun.
So, and I'm still out here in Arizona.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And so you mentioned being an only child. Now, that is
Yes.
quite the opposite from what you ended up doing with your family. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, it is. So when I was 16, I actually met a boy on vacation, and I met him in California on the beach. And I was with my mom on a vacation, and he was really handsome. And
You
he
met
turned
him.
out
I
to,
didn't know you met him
I
on the
met,
beach.
yes,
That
I
is
met
so
him on the
fun.
beach. Yes. So,
Cute.
yes. And he was actually in college. I was in high school. I lied about my age.
Oh
I
my
did. It was just
gosh.
start off really bad with a lot of lies. And
That is so funny.
yes, so I lived in Arizona, and he actually lived in Oregon, and we met in California, and that was obviously before cell phones and things like that. So we
Right.
kind of kept in touch through letters,
Uh-huh.
and he ended up coming to Arizona to visit me.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yes,
Wait,
and so
wait, wait.
after
Hold on. So how old did he think you were?
he thought I was 18.
And you were probably a junior. What were you at 16?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So when did he
yes.
find out the truth and was he
Yeah.
mad?
So it was a couple of months later, but
Okay.
yeah, it was didn't start off our
That is
trust so
so
well.
funny. So
But
funny.
yeah, so he came out to visit me a couple times in Arizona. And when I graduated from high school, I actually went to Oregon to go to college with him. So I went to Oregon State
Okay.
University for a year.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so we started off long distance and I went up there to go to school. And I actually went 1 year and I was a cheerleader there, which was
Mhm.
so fun. And
Cute. I didn't
then I
know
ended up,
that.
yes, I was an Oregon State cheerleader. I loved it. It was a really, really awesome time in my life. Super
That's
fun.
cool.
Um, and then we ended up getting married after my first year of college. So I was very, very young. I was
Mm-hmm.
18.
Okay.
And so his name was Chris, and Chris actually got into dental school. So he became a dentist, and I helped support him through dental school. So lived up in Portland, Oregon for 4 years while
Mm-hmm.
he did dental school. And I had we got married. Did I tell you? Yeah, we got married.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Got it.
yeah, yep. And so while he was in dental school, 2 years into dental school, I had my first baby,
Mhm.
and it was a girl. And then he ended up graduating in 2002. And when he graduated, I was pregnant with my second baby.
Mhm.
So there, two babies, and I was only an only child. And I never really had, as a young girl, I didn't even really babysit a lot. I don't
Yeah.
have, we don't have a huge family. I wasn't even
Okay.
around a lot of kids. I mean, I always liked babies because I was a little girl and, I love
Right.
babies, but I didn't always say, oh, I want a big family or I want this. It just kind of happened. So we had
Yeah.
ended up having 5 kids together. So
Oh my
5 kids.
gosh.
Yes, we had 4 girls and one boy.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
all in the span of like 9 years, eight
Oh my
years.
gosh, Janea.
So yeah. So
Crazy.
all through my 20s, I was having babies and had Christopher, my son,
Hmm.
at 29. That was at 29. His birthday is August 5th. And then I turned 30 on October 26th. So
Oh
all
my
5 babies
gosh.
from 20 to 29. So got that all done. But we moved from Oregon back to Arizona.
Hmm.
We moved out here to Gilbert, which is where I live now. And
Hmm.
Chris opened up a dental office. And he was an incredible dentist, really great dentist. And actually opened up 2 dental offices. And with opening up 2 businesses, more money, more stress.
Yeah,
It's just
sure, sure.
there was a lot to keep up with. We built a house. We had a lot of really nice things, and nice things require more money. And then the
Hmm.
pressure to make more money to take care of your employees and your staff and their families, and
Hmm.
a lot of pressure. So I noticed that like the I don't know, we were married for 12 years, and I noticed
Okay.
about year 10, some things just kind of started to change. He started to just be a little bit different. And
Mm.
so I thought, well, maybe we need counseling, or um, I know some mental illness runs a little bit in actually both sides of our family.
Hmm.
So I didn't know if maybe he needed to see a specialist.
Yeah.
Um, so I ended up having our fifth baby, Christopher, and around 6 months old, Chris passed away. My husband passed away,
Mm.
and it was very sudden. Um, I was left with 5 kids from 6 months to 8 years old
Hmm.
without a dad.
Wow.
Um, so it really, the whole thing is like it could be made into a movie. It's and I'm able to talk about it now without
Because how many years
that.
ago was this now?
This was in 2010, so we're looking,
Okay.
close to
13
13 years.
years. Sure.
Yeah. But I had years and years of counseling to help
Yeah, I'm
get through
sure.
this, like EMDR counseling, like PTSD counseling. So
Hmm.
I'm able to think about very certain events in my life without having the emotion associated with it. I'm able to
Okay.
separate
Wow,
that.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it is really, it's good. But some people think that I don't have emotions surrounding his death, but it took many years not to.
Sure. To be able to
Many
talk
years.
about it. Hmm.
Exactly, exactly. And there are times that are even now that are a little bit harder to talk about than
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I had to really, I just found myself all the stress that Chris had experienced, um, running two dental offices and managing all the finances and stuff, that was all put on me,
Mm.
but without the support of my husband.
Wow.
So I had a really heavy load at that time in my life. I had a great help from my mom and my grandma, who are very close to my kids and stuff. They let me grieve. I tried to keep things normal during the day. I tried to really keep the kids in school. I wasn't that. I didn't want to, grieve so heavily in front of them. In the evenings is when I would
Sure.
kind of do my grieving, but I really wanted to keep their life consistent. And
Yeah.
after actually going through counseling as long as I did, my counselor did tell me that. She's like, Janae, I think the reason the kids have turned out so wonderfully is because the consistency was there. It's not like, hey kids,
Mm.
mommy's so sad, come sleep with me tonight, and take the place of that loneliness that I'm feeling. I
Right.
didn't
You
really
didn't,
do that.
yeah, yeah, you didn't have them sub in for what you needed.
No,
Mm-hmm.
no. And my church was a really great help. They brought
Mm-hmm.
food for me for a whole year. They brought food
Wow.
for a whole entire year. It was absolutely incredible. Um, but it was really hard. A lot of it,
Yeah.
attorneys and a lot of not having don't have his income. So it was just everything, foreclosures and almost bankruptcy and
Uh,
everything. It was very difficult.
and your kids were 6 months to 10, did you say? 9? Oh my
8 years old.
gosh. I can't even
Yes.
imagine.
Yeah. And I was a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Chris worked, so I didn't. And also, I didn't have an education to fall back on or a degree
Mm-hmm.
to be able to go. Not that a degree can get you a good job these days, but
Sure, sure.
um, I just didn't have a skill. I didn't have a skill set at that time. And but it ended up to be a good story. It ended up to be a good ending.
Yeah.
I ended up getting married 2 years later, and I got married to who I'm married to now. We've been married, it'll be 11 years in
Wow.
November. Yes.
So you've
So
almost been married to Franco as long as you were married to Chris, almost.
yes,
Crazy.
almost as
Wow.
long. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Franco, like you said, Franco is my husband. Franco and I grew up
Mm-hmm.
together. We grew up on the same street. And we reconnected after Chris passed away. Actually, at the funeral, I had a lot
Mm.
of childhood friends. I had a lot of elementary school, high school friends come to support
Yeah.
me. It was beautiful to see everybody. And Franco was one of my childhood friends that came via Facebook. My mom had put something out there about Chris's
Sure.
funeral. And he came to the funeral, and just eventually, I lived in this huge house. Everything was breaking. I ended
Oh
up
my
moving out of that
gosh.
house. And nobody to
I
fix
can't even
it.
imagine. Even just yesterday, I was like, Brandon, I think my tire needs to be checked, the air. I'm like, what would I do without a husband?
Right. And you know what?
uh,
One of the really worst things about that house that started happening after Chris passed away is we started to get a ton of scorpions.
oh no.
Yes, and living in Arizona. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, so a lot of scorpions, and
Oh,
living in Arizona, we do get a lot of scorpions, but the house I was living was in a pecan grove with scorpions, and we were like the only house that didn't get them, and they started coming into
oh
the house.
my gosh, Janea.
Oh, it was so bad, and nobody there
Oh,
to kill him, nobody there to kill him,
seriously.
and I was stung, and then my son
Oh,
was stung, and I'm just
are
like,
you
oh, this is awful.
serious? No.
No, it's like we got
Oh
to
my
move.
gosh,
So
that's
it
yeah.
was awful. It was
Oh,
so
there's
awful.
I can't even imagine. You're just like you're husbandless and all these things start happening, things start breaking and oh my gosh, you'd be like,
Yeah.
I need somebody to help me.
Yes. Yes. So Franco and I, he came over to fix a couple things at the house just as a friend. Anyway, friendship turned into more, and we ended
Yeah.
up getting married. And Franco has now raised all of these kids as if they were
Oh,
his own, and
amazing.
he's amazing. He speaks of them as they are his own.
That's
The
awesome.
It is. And the three little ones, they don't remember Chris. So they actually call Franco dad. And
Yeah.
the older two girls are now 23 and 20.
Yeah.
They don't call him dad, but they do refer to him as dad. And they have a lot of good memories. He was a huge, huge part of um, just changing my mindset. Franco has been he's been like a public speaker a lot of his
Mm-hmm.
life. He worked with Bob Proctor, and he's just really
Wow.
good at good with increasing confidence and self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he was really that was a huge factor in overcoming grief for me. He was a really big help with that, as
That's
as well as,
amazing.
yeah. Whereas my mom and grandma were helping with the children, he was really
Mm-hmm.
helping so much more with me, and just
Sure.
believing in myself and believing how strong I was.
That's
And then we
awesome.
got, yeah, so we got married in 2012.
Uh-huh. That is
Yes, so
awesome. That is
yeah,
so
so that's where we
cool.
are now. Thank you.
That is
It was
a lot of what like really, really hard experiences. So
it
how you
really is.
mentioned, yeah, you mentioned that this really helps your coaching. Talk to me about that. How has it kind of helped transform your coaching and how you coach your clients?
So it's helped in a lot of ways. It has, so two ways. I have more empathy for
Mm-hmm.
clients. I have more sympathy for them too. So I'm able to have tremendous grace without the judgment,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? Because anyway, from what I went through, and then even to how I grieved, everybody grieves differently. So when I have clients that are experiencing issues with their husbands,
Mm-hmm.
or and they go way off track, I'm like, gosh, I was there. I wasn't tracking food at the
Yeah.
time, but I grieved not the best sometimes, right?
Right.
And then I also don't fall for excuses either,
Mm-hmm.
because from what I went through, and and then we'll get into my bodybuilding journey
Yeah.
too. But
Yes. That
I, well, maybe I'll stick with the whole discipline when it comes to the
okay.
bodybuilding thing.
Okay.
But it's really through the trial, through my childhood, and through alcoholism and drug abuse. Oh, and I didn't even talk about how Chris passed away. I guess that's
Mm.
really what is a little bit relatable to me for clients too. I have clients
Sure.
that have struggled with drug use in the past, or have family members or husbands that have struggled. Chris died of a Demerol overdose, and so that's a powerful. Um, it's a powerful narcotic that is used during dental procedures,
Mm-hmm.
and um, that's what he died of. What happened is it's very fast acting too, so you can do it, and that you can be high, and then the pain goes away. And he didn't have pain, but I'm sure the stress went away. But guess what?
Sure.
Just like with any drug, whether it be like an opiate or a painkiller, you eventually have to take more in order to get the high,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened to him. He just, it's like you take that, or even with like, fentanyl, like what is happening now with the
Right.
fentanyl crisis. It's
Yeah.
just that little bit more can put you over the edge. And he actually passed away at work, and his dad
Oh,
uh, found him. So it was a very traumatic event for his family.
yeah.
Um,
Sounds like
his,
it.
well, yeah. So, and again, I'm able to coach clients through some of those hardships too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because you truly
yeah,
know what that's like. So,
I
for
do.
someone listening, if someone was listening and they were like, oh my gosh, I just spent the weekend completely overeating, I have all this stress, whatever. Like, well, what would you respond to a client saying that?
Well, first of all, I want to know the backstory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's going on. And I do encourage my clients to, like in our initial Zoom meeting, it's like, hey, the more you communicate with me, the better coach I can be.
Yes.
And and there's different levels of communication. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes um, they'll really be upfront about what's happening in their lives, and it's happening, today. And it gives me just a better insight into their life. And then
Yeah.
I feel like I can go, hey, you know what? You had this awful weekend of eating. It's really just about, you know, getting back to it. And it's not going to be 100% with everything you have going
Mm-hmm.
on. But if someone's experiencing tremendous marital problems and binged all weekend, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
let's just take little tiny steps on Monday. I know that
Yeah.
you don't have the bandwidth right now to maybe strength train. I know that you don't have the bandwidth to get up and move, but let's just get some protein and couple those meals. It's really
Yeah.
about, just baby steps. Baby steps are still steps in the right direction.
Yeah. I
And when
love
I know
that.
and when I know clients have a lot going on, that's what it is. It's baby steps.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that it's not just like, okay, well, just get all in, back on track, next meal type of thing. It's no, let's listen to you,
No,
listen to what's going on with the client's life, and just do what they feel like they can handle, like in the moment.
true.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. So let's talk about kind of how your life pivoted into fitness. When did that happen and why and what was going on?
Yeah, so I've always been athletic. I did, I was a dancer and a cheerleader, did
Yeah.
gymnastics, but I never was into strength training until Franco, my husband, he
Okay.
started doing CrossFit, and
Mhm.
he did it for even a couple of years. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, that's intense. What are those workouts? It's crazy. And he finally got me to do it. I would probably say, I don't know, maybe 2014, middle of the
Okay.
year.
Hmm.
It became like our family. It was so great. I loved it. I felt so strong. And it was just down the street. Franco and I were doing it together. It was
Yeah.
great. And I don't consider myself very competitive, but I found myself kind of wanting to beat certain girls and
Of
stuff
course.
and try to get
Yes.
stronger. Started feeling more confident in myself. Didn't know what I was doing with food. I always have been an eater, was eating
Uh-huh.
whatever I wanted, or some days I wouldn't eat until 2, just like
Just kind of
what
all over
what
the
a
place.
lot all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Happened to be in Colorado one weekend with my husband visiting his sister, and I was just on Instagram. I was, searching around, and I saw these girls, and they were in sparkly bikinis, and they had a little bit of muscle, and they were so glammed and beautiful. And I'm like, what in the world is this? Because
Yeah.
my pageant background and
Well, I was going to
crowned.
say, it's like a hybrid of your two lives, kind of.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
exactly. So I kind of clicked on some links, and it brought me to this like bikini competition. So I go, what in the world is this? And then it showed me a link to the coach that I had for a couple of years. So I went in to see her. I thought, can you tell me a
Hmm.
little bit more? She had 6 kids, so I thought we had a little bit in common
Yeah, for
there.
sure.
And yes, and I was feeling strong and confident from CrossFit.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I was just reading and I thought, well, okay, it takes about 12 weeks to do a first show. This was about June. So I thought, okay, all of June, all of July, all of August. I could for sure compete at the end of August, looking at my body to myself.
Yeah.
She looked at me and she was like, so you're gonna need a lot more than 12 weeks. And she goes, you're maybe compete in November. So it was November 2016.
And
And
how did you feel when she said that?
I was offended. I
Yeah.
was offended. In my head, I'm thinking this CrossFit body that I have, I could for sure do it. Oh, heavens no. I was completely blindsided about how difficult it was to build
Hmm.
muscle.
Sure.
Building muscle is so incredibly difficult. It's much more difficult than to me than losing body fat.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree.
So I did though. I did my first bikini show in November of 2016, and I was completely hooked. I
Uh-huh.
was completely hooked to the point where it is now 2023, October. What are
Uh-huh.
we looking at? What is this? This is almost four,
What?
7, 8 years,
7 years.
almost 7.5. Yeah,
Yes.
7 years. I have competed nonstop,
Wow. How
which
many
is
shows?
pretty, you know what, Lindsay? 40, I don't even
Oh
know.
my
It's usually
gosh.
like maybe probably 35, 5 a
Uh-huh.
year usually. And
Wow.
that's not very common. There are a lot of
Yeah,
women that'll do
sure.
shows. They'll do shows and just to kind of prove to themselves that they can do it and get on stage.
Yes.
And then I was just hooked, and I can go into a little bit about, just my purpose behind it. Why do I do
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Talk
But
about that.
I will. It has taught me so much about myself. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So in
Okay.
2016, I started, and then in 2019, I got my pro card, which meant that I
Uh-huh.
competed as a pro.
Yep.
And it was really, truly one of the best days of my life. It was
Hmm.
so cool. It was just a really great experience. But as of now, I'm taking a year off. I'm going to take a year off.
I
And
know you told me that to hold you to it, so I'm going to.
yes, yes, I did. I told you, Lindsay, if I talk about wanting to compete again
Yeah.
in six
Say
months,
no.
say no, Janea,
No,
you need
Janea.
until, yes. So I'm planning on 2025, maybe starting
Hmm.
there and
Cool.
competing again. I think I need a good mental break and just to
Yeah.
be a normal eater for a while,
For sure. For sure.
but I was with a friend, and she looked at me and she goes, so why do you compete? I mean, like what purpose, like what purpose does that bring you in life?
Yeah.
So I started thinking about it, and I kind of got into a little bit of a deep thought. I think the reason I love competing so much, Lindsay, is because I am doing all the work. I have complete control. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
my husband, my coach, sure, my coach gives me macros to follow, and
Mm-hmm.
I get my programming, and I get that programming. I don't have to do any of it. I
True.
can cheat my way. I can cheat my way through the food. I can cheat my way through the workouts. I can cheat my way through 20,000 steps. And on my check-ins, I can lie. But guess what? That's going to show up on stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really what it boils down to is what I put in my mouth, I have control over.
Mm-hmm.
And that sense of control and discipline for me, when so much of my life has been out of control, childhood was out of control at times, tumultuous around my early 30s when my husband passed away. It was just so much that this is just me and just what I control. And I find so much joy in that, in just me doing all of this hard work to get me on stage for that day.
Yeah, I can
So
totally
that
see that.
like that control is so cool. So when I'm coaching lifestyle clients now, there are
Yeah.
two things. One, I judge their personality because I can be a hard coach, but I can also be a coach that is very graceful. I have
Mm-hmm.
both, and I judge the personality of my clients. I have a lot of A-type clients that want me to be very hard
Right.
on them,
Very
and I
high
can.
accountability. Mm-hmm.
Yes, high cow belly. And that's where the bodybuilder inside of me comes out, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm like,
Do you have a different name for that, coach? I mean, I know you have a different name for road rage, Janea.
Mad Jan.
Yes, there's Mad Jan. I'm just curious, you should make up two different coach names.
Yeah, there should be. There should
Yeah.
be. I need a more of a graceful name.
Yes.
Maybe I should
Uh-huh.
ask my client a graceful name and then more of a
Yeah.
hard
Like, do you want
person.
this one or do you want this one? Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
love
sorry,
it.
I
Okay.
interrupted. Okay, two
No,
different kinds of coaches. What do
I
what do
love
you do?
it. I love it. So, and that's what I say, when people feed me the excuses of,
Hmm.
you know, I'm so sorry my kids had so many sports this weekend and I was traveling in my car all over. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, really? I've got 5 kids that I was traveling around all of the time. I was the chauffeur. I planned my food. I brought it in my car.
It's doable.
It's doable. And
Hmm.
so again, judging by the client, I am like,
Yes.
I will say something like that. Or judging by the client, I'm like, you know what? I know this is kind of all you can give right now, but maybe next time you pack a couple of meals in the car.
Hmm.
Or I'm like, well, just so you know, you could have planned all of your meals. You didn't have to go have a Chick-fil-A #1 meal. You could have brought your food with you and not
Yeah.
indulged, because you can control what you put in your mouth.
Yeah.
You can. I don't,
True.
even when you're sick, you can control
Hmm.
what you put in your mouth. I get your stomach might not be up to it. Your throat might be hurting. I get that. Okay, cool. But if you're just feeling a little under the weather, little body aches,
Yeah,
stomach's not hurting, you still can control what you put in your mouth.
for sure.
Bottom line, you
And
can.
I think that being so extreme does teach you about all of it. It teaches you about both extremes and the middle. I remember
Yes.
the very first time I went on a trip during prep and I brought all of my food and I stayed completely on track and I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. In fact, I felt better because we were up at Bear Lake and we were in swimsuits and stuff and I did not feel like sluggish or bloated or yucky or full or any of those kind of emotions you get from like overeating. And so
Yes.
being so strict to one side really does teach you that like anything is possible and you get to choose
Yes.
where you are in that spectrum.
Yes. That is perfectly said. Absolutely. You can do anything. And again,
Mhm.
through what I went through in my life to bodybuilding is and Lindsay,
Yep.
it's so incredibly strict.
Mhm.
And it just, I know I can do anything. Like I know that.
Yeah.
I truly believe it. I don't,
It's
I don't,
amazing.
I could be a race car driver. I think I could do it. But guess what? It
Yeah.
just takes so much practice. It takes practice
Yes.
at being good at
100%.
anything.
Yes.
So again, I'm like, I can be really hard and I can be tremendously graceful.
Mhm.
I'm a whole mix of everybody because of all my experiences.
Yeah, I love that. That is so awesome. So, what do you think? How did competing, or what did it teach you about habits, discipline? I mean, you kind of touched on that already, but what did that look like in your life?
So I just know by consistency. And I know I
Mhm.
always tell my clients, like, the C word is consistency,
Yeah.
not a bad word. It's consistency. That
Yes.
with practice, you can get good at anything. You
Mhm.
really, really can. I mean, it goes from, I don't know, learning how to do Excel spreadsheets to walking more throughout the day,
Mhm.
or I mean, to learning how to be a good singer, to learning how to be a good friend. I don't. It just all takes practice, and through
Mhm.
bodybuilding, I just learned that consistency, whether it be dieting for as long as you can to get on stage. It all comes together. And I like to use this analogy of compounding interest,
Mhm.
right? I mean, if you keep taking money out of your account, taking money out of your account, sometimes you just leave it in.
Yeah.
It's just going to keep going and going and going
Yeah.
and going. And that's how it is. It's just, if you can keep going, not mess up on weekends, just keep the diet going. It's going to pay off. Sure, it might not be in your time frame, but it's
Mhm.
going to pay off if you just continue with it. But people can give up too early and not give enough time.
Yes, I totally agree. And that's huge. So, I mean, that's one of the benefits of having a coach, right? What have you learned about having a coach yourself in coaching clients? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Um, my coach is tough. My coach, as you
He
guys
is.
know, he
Yes.
is very, very tough. But, when he's texting me on a Monday, holding, even now, holding me accountable. Hey, how's it going? How's your reverse diet? I'm like, well, I don't know. My reverse diet hasn't been going so well. But, I still will check in with my coach, even on
Mhm.
off season, and I think that sometimes with my clients, even if they aren't doing everything that they're supposed to be doing, they still check in with me
Yes,
to hold
huge.
themselves accountable. It's really, really important. So I know, again, what is going on in their life.
Mhm.
Communication with me, just like I communicate with my coach, even though I'm not prepping for a show. I appreciate their check in with me and communicating with me, even though they aren't following things 100%, just so I
Yes.
know where their mindset is and I know how to help them get back on track.
Yeah, that's so key is that communication all the time, right? Not just when things are perfect. It's almost even more
Yes,
important when they're not perfect.
it is more important. And then when
Mhm.
I'm missing them and I don't see where they are, I will message them or Marco Polo them. Hey, where
Mhm.
are you? What's going on? What's up? I need some
Yeah.
insight into what's happening in your life right now.
Yeah, I love that. That's huge. Well, Janea, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of
Thank you,
that.
Lindsay. Well, thank you so
You
much.
you are such a good storyteller. I love just listening to you
Oh,
talk and
I love it. I do think the more it's just, I love learning about people.
Mhm. You are
Everybody,
very
everybody.
personable. Yes.
I love it, and I love it, and it just it makes me excited to get to know what people are going through,
Yeah.
and again, it helps me to be a better coach and a better friend, a better
Mhm.
person. I don't know. I just, it's one of my favorite things is to just ask questions and know about people's lives.
I love that. You're an incredible coach. Your clients absolutely love you. Guys,
Thank you,
Janea does
Lindsay.
have some coaching spots open. So if you're interested in
Oh,
working
yes,
with
I do.
Janea, just shoot me a DM on social media and yeah, we'll totally get you hooked up with her. So anything
Thank
else you want to
you.
share? Where can we find you on Instagram? Share your username.
Yes, so my username is JFitMom. So JFITMOM times, that's an X5.
Uh-huh.
So JFitMom X5 is my
Got it.
Instagram
Yes.
username. So give me a follow on there. And it's mainly my bodybuilding journey, but I do post like workouts and
Yeah.
um,
You post
yeah.
great
So
stuff.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But
Awesome.
thanks for having me on, Lindsay. I
You're
appreciate you. And by the
welcome.
way, you guys, Lindsay's the best too.
Oh.
It's such a blessing to work with like kind, awesome
Oh,
people. She's
thank
an
you.
incredible leader. So I'm grateful for her.
Oh, thanks, Janea. See you guys.
You're
She's the
welcome.
best. And she just built up her clients just like she built up everybody around her. Janea, you're
I love
amazing.
it. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you,
Thanks
Lindsay.
thanks so much for joining
Okay.
us today.
Okay. Bye. Bye, sweetie. See ya.